In the middle of nowhere in the 1200s medieval wilderness, a row of gleaming solar panels was actually standing upright. With the roar of a computer tower turning on, a modern laser printer was frantically spitting out Valoria VIP anti-counterfeit banknotes printed with the Imperial Rose crest. And the Empire's most powerful minister, Prime Minister Duke Archibald, could never have imagined that his proud and immense fortune was about to be completely wiped out by this pile of scrap paper. This was no manifestation of the god of light. It was simply because, inside my mind, I had unlocked an entire modern national strategic reserve bunker. Relying on the modern technology inside, I handcrafted a silvered glass mirror and extorted a full 200,000 gold coins from the great Emperor Aurelius. I built the Empire's first modern shopping mall with floor-to-ceiling glass windows, and using a hunger marketing tactic that was played to death in future generations, I made 1/20th of the Empire's annual treasury revenue in a single day. But this dimensional strike, capable of overturning the entire Empire, had to start from the day I decided to lay my cards on the table. I've been transmigrated to this world for 8 years, and for 8 years, I played the role of a brainless, reckless brute. Today, I'm done pretending. Walking down the streets of the Crown City, commoners dodged me as soon as they saw me, chattering that His Highness the Third Prince, Silas, was going to cause trouble for Arthur, the son of Prime Minister Archibald again. Bullshit. I beat Arthur up last month because he stepped his left foot into my shop and then actually thought about backing out when he saw me. How could I tolerate that? But today, I really don't have the time to deal with that loser. I'm going to lay my cards on the table with my so-called father, Emperor Aurelius. I don't want to stay in this broken Crown City for another day. Crown Prince Edward and the fourth Prince Richard are fighting tooth and nail for the throne every single day. The golden finger in my head, which had been suppressed for 8 years, has finally unlocked. Why should I stay here and wade through this muddy water? Going to the northern border to be a local overlord far away from the Emperor's reach won't that be sweet. I headed straight for the obsidian throne room of the Sun Palace. Without waiting for the attendant to announce me, I raised my voice and shouted, "Father, I'm here." I pushed the doors open, swaggered in, and dragged over a padded chair with a backrest, sitting down with my legs wide apart. I was the one who made this chair. The medieval hard wooden benches without backrests were simply anti-human. Emperor Aurelius didn't even lift his eyelids. He asked in a muffled voice, "Why are you here again? What trouble have you caused this time?" I rolled my eyes. "Am I just a troublemaker in your eyes? I came today to beg you for something. I want to go take up a post at the northern border." The Emperor snapped his head up, his face full of vigilance. "Go to the northern border? What kind of scheme are you brewing, boy? Go ask which prince wants to leave the prosperous capital?" "Just looking for some peace and quiet," I said, throwing my hands up. "Eldest brother and fourth brother are fighting for the crown prince position, and rumors outside say you want to depose the eldest and establish the youngest. I'm sick of watching this mess." Bang! The Emperor slammed his hand on the table, stood up furiously, and shouted, "Utter nonsense. Who taught you to say that? Any other prince would have pissed their pants long ago." But I didn't care. After 8 years, I had figured out his temper completely. "Father, who are you trying to scare? If you want to hit me, reward me with 20 military cane strokes, and let me leave after you're done." My biological mother was a princess of the previous dynasty. The crown prince position wouldn't fall to me even if I were beaten to death. Being the emperor means waking up earlier than a rooster and sleeping later than a dog. Whoever wants to be it can be it. I want to be a carefree prince. Aurelius had his temper completely stifled by me and sat heavily back down in his chair. "Taking up a post is fine. You are now the Grand Governor of the North. Once you go, you must completely take over the military and political power there." "Don't," I quickly interrupted. "Father, this absolutely won't do. Grasping both military and political power easily leads to local lords deceiving their superiors and even rebelling." I cleared my throat and dropped a massive bombshell. The safest method is the separation of military and political powers. The highest local military commander only manages warfare, and the administrative governor only manages the people's livelihood. Army logistics fall under administration, and local security falls under the army. Mutual checks and balances. If you're afraid of generals using their armies for leverage, then rotate the generals regularly. You could even build an Imperial Royal Military Academy, serve as the principal yourself, and train all the mid-level knights to be your diehard loyalists. As for a prince like me, he'll just take a titular position, eat, drink, and wait to die. I will absolutely not touch real power. After unleashing this combo of modern institutional concepts, the emperor and his personal attendant beside him were completely dumbfounded. They stared at me with wide eyes, their expressions showing that their worldviews had taken a massive hit. They were probably wondering, is this still Silas, the reckless prince who only knows how to fight? Aurelius took a deep breath, staring at me intently. "To go to your fief, you sure have a lot of theories, but just look at your usual behavior, running that Horizon Guild, delving into the ways of merchants, reeking of copper. Which noble or minister in the empire respects you? How fresh," I sneered. "Father, which of the things you eat, wear, and use every day doesn't rely on merchants? Nobles? Commoners, craftsmen, merchants, this class ranking is complete dog's hit. I accept farmers ranking second. But why do craftsmen rank third? Without blacksmiths and stonemasons, the empire's weapons wouldn't be sharp, and even castles couldn't be built. And merchants, you talk about valuing agriculture and suppressing commerce, but look at those great aristocratic families. Which one doesn't have a few merchant companies and taverns secretly backing them? I completely let loose, shouting without caring about the consequences. The old nobles ranking first are the most disgusting. They are a bunch of blood-sucking parasites feeding on the commoners, monopolizing books, dominating the bureaucracy. Father, nobles are made of iron, but dynasties flow like water. The emperor's beard trembled with rage as he pointed at my nose and cursed, "You rebellious son. Have you forgotten that our family also comes from a great aristocratic background? Our family stole the throne by scamming our way up." I casually roasted. Aurelius almost vomited blood from anger. Knowing when to stop, I quickly smoothed things over. Father, since we have become the royal family, we must think of the empire's subjects. To suppress those old aristocratic families, you must send me to the north to develop the people's livelihood. I'll erect statues of the god of light for you in every household. No, the emperor refused flatly without even thinking. Why? I became anxious. No reason. I'm not dead yet, so stop trying to run away outside. Stay obediently in the crown city. One more word of nonsense, and I'll reward you with 10 lashes of the whip. Fine, you're noble, you're great. If I can't afford to offend you, I can hide. I turned and walked away. The script was wrong. I threw out super advanced theories, and the old man didn't loosen his grip at all. Walking out of the throne room in frustration, I hadn't gone far when I ran into several flustered palace maids hidden. Leading them was Empress Eleanor's personal lady-in-waiting. "What are you running for? Where is my sister Cecily?" The maid hurriedly lifted her skirt and curtsied. To answer His Highness Silas, the Empress summoned the Prime Minister's son, Arthur, to the palace. "We are going to find Princess Cecily." "Arthur is in the palace? Where?" "On his way here." "Excellent. Talk of the devil. I was just worrying about having nowhere to vent my anger, and this punching bag delivered himself right to my door. Without even a greeting, I sprinted towards the inevitable path to the Empress chambers. From a distance, I saw Arthur following behind the royal knights, trembling like a quail. The moment I saw him, without a second word, I charged straight at him, roaring wildly, "Arthur, you bastard! Are you still trying to marry my sister?" Arthur looked up and saw me. Scared out of his wits, he reflexively turned and ran. How could a frail young master, hollowed out by wine and women, outrun me? In less than 3 steps, I caught up to his back. "Your Highness, I was forced by my L." Before he could finish his sentence, bang! I landed a heavy, powerful punch squarely on his eye socket. Arthur let out a miserable shriek, rolled on the ground, and skillfully went into a squatting defensive posture with his hands covering his head. "You're getting pretty bold these days. You actually dare to run when you see me? Am I a man-eating ogre? You're asking for a beating." I cursed while my fists rained down on him. Arthur curled up on the ground, groaning in pain. He was probably cursing me in his heart. "Don't you know exactly why I'm running? I wasn't beating him up to throw my weight around, but to vent anger for my sister Cecily. In my past life, I was an only child and dreamt of having a younger sister. Cecily was well-behaved and sensible, always calling me third brother sweetly whenever she saw me. This grandson Arthur lingered in the red light districts all day, and his father, Duke Archibald, came from a family famously known as treacherous old foxes. Historically, the prince corresponding to my position was killed by him. Let my sister marry into this wolf's den at 13 and die young? As long as I am alive, Arthur can forget about it. After beating Arthur until his face was bruised and swollen, I timed it perfectly and, before the royal guards could call for backup, greased my saws and slipped away. After leaving the palace, I got straight into my carriage. My head butler, Thomas, was already waiting inside. "Your Highness, news has come from the Prime Minister's estate," Thomas said with a grave expression. "Duke Archibald and the Montague family, one of the Empire's 5 great families, intend to unite and suppress our Horizon Guild. The Montague family wants to cut off our grain purchasing channels. At the Royal Morning Assembly the day after tomorrow, the Duke also plans to impeach you." I sneered upon hearing this. "The Montague family, huh? You scheming old Prime Minister. Do you really think this prince spent the last 8 years doing nothing? When I first transmigrated here, I felt an extreme lack of security. To build a core team of absolute loyalty, I forcefully replicated the pyramid scheme brainwashing techniques I learned in my past life, slamming this model onto the Empire's refugees, gypsy nomads, and northern barbarians. After 8 years, the Horizon Guild had long become a commercial empire of unfathomable depth. On the surface, it had shops and taverns. In the shadows, it had the ironclad mercenary group. Even inside the estates of the great nobles, we had successfully brainwashed sleeper agents. That's how the intel from the Prime Minister's estate got out. "Thomas, figure out every single business operated by the Montague family." I issued the command. "Against that old fox, we must show no mercy. We're fighting back." Thomas trembled with excitement. For 8 years, these die-hard subordinates had been well-fed and well-clothed, taking the guild's money without having the chance to work for me. They had been holding it in for far too long. Of course, sending Thomas away, I closed my eyes, and my consciousness instantly sank into my mind. For the 8 years since my transmigration, there had always been a space shrouded in heavy fog in my mind. It wasn't until yesterday that the fog completely dispersed. It turned out to be the place where I worked in my previous life, the modern National Strategic Reserve Bunker. The entire security building, along with its underground facilities, had been forcefully cut and pasted into my brain. Time inside was frozen. There were no living people, but all the security systems were fully active. Following the building's freight elevator all the way down, there was an extremely hidden security door on the 3rd basement level. Pushing it open revealed an arched underground tunnel 4 meters wide, endlessly deep. On the left was a massive vault door. I stepped forward and pulled it open. There were no guns or cannons inside, no gold either. It was completely packed with densely arranged bookshelves. I randomly pulled out a few books from the basic practical data section. The moment I saw the covers, my scalp tingled. Barefoot Doctor's Manual for Southern Regions. Flipping through the contents, this book was an absolute masterpiece. It completely ignored complex anatomy and pharmacology, directly listing all common diseases, accompanied by herbal formulas and folk remedies. What to do if chickenpox breaks out, how to pinch a child's spine for indigestion. It was fully illustrated. As long as you could read, you could treat illnesses. This was a divine book hammered out by our ancestors to solve the problem of regions lacking doctors and medicine. I quickly looked to the side. Friend of military and civilian personnel. Flipping open the table of contents, I almost burst out laughing. This book was incredible. The first half taught you how to shoot down airplanes, survive a nuclear strike, and ambush tanks. The second half directly taught you how to plant corn, repair tractors, provide postpartum care for sows, and even how to cook braised pork. These divine books with strong era-specific characteristics might be outdated in modern times, but in the medieval Valoria Empire, they were world-creating artifacts. Even if a magical war or the Black Death broke out, relying on these books could rebuild civilization. Going further in, I found basic engineering data. Earth kiln cement, simple glass refining, preparation of 3 acids and 2 alkalis, progressing from the most basic primitive production all the way to a complete industrial system. My eyes turned red with excitement. Duke Archibald, what do you have to fight me with? Relying just on these materials, it wouldn't be too much for me to become the richest man in the empire, right? And this was just the first warehouse. I went out and opened the second vault. It was piled high with special paper exclusively for printing currency. The third vault held anti-counterfeit currency ink. The fourth vault contained complete sets of printing equipment. An absolute dimensional strike. I picked out a few sets of blueprints. Since both the Duke's family and the Montague family were involved in the silk and linen business, I would strike at the textile industry. I directly pulled out the blueprints for the spinning machine and the jacquard loom, especially that product of a cross-era industrial revolution, the spinning jenny. My consciousness returning to reality, I immediately ordered Thomas to summon all the top carpenters in the estate. There were 27 of them in total, led by master craftsman Gregor. These people had all signed death contracts, and their loyalty was absolutely maxed out. I slammed the disassembled blueprints onto the table. Can you understand this? The master craftsmen took one look, and their eyes nearly popped out of their heads. Not only were they marveling at the snow-white, smooth paper, but their worldviews were shattered by the extremely precise lines and exploded views drawn on it. Your Highness, these drawings. The drafting method is simply a work of divine craftsmanship. May I dare ask which exalted master created this? Gregor was so excited his voice trembled. Confidential, I smiled faintly. Work hard. In the future, there will be plenty of blueprints like this. Whoever learns it the best, I guarantee your name will go down in history, and books will be written about you. Upon hearing this, the craftsmen were so excited they almost knelt on the spot. In the Empire, the status of artisans was lowly. Having a biography written about them was something they wouldn't even dare dream of. Now, I was directly feeding them a massive pie from the heavens. This thing is called a spinning machine. I invented it. It can directly increase our current spinning efficiency by 16 times. Dead silence filled the room. The Empire's current spinning wheels required one person to spin a single thread, but my machine allowed one person to spin 16 threads simultaneously. Thomas stood by, swallowing hard. Increasing efficiency 16 times meant labor costs would be slashed to the ankles. This wasn't doing business. This was smashing people with a money-printing machine. I turned to look at Thomas. How much liquid cash can the guild mobilize right now? Thomas puffed out his chest. To answer your Highness, we can mobilize 80,000 gold coins at any moment. The foundation accumulated over 8 years was finally being put to use. I tapped my finger heavily on the table. Withdraw it all. First, give 10,000 gold coins to Gregor. I want to see the finished product of this machine in the shortest time possible. Gregor jumped in shock. Your Highness, building a wooden machine won't take anywhere near 10,000 gold coins. It's not just for one machine. I want mass production. production. I sneered coldly. Listen to my instructions. Do not use the old rule where one craftsman builds a piece from start to finish. I want an assembly line production. I picked up a quill pen and drew a flowchart on parchment. Break down the processes. Apprentice A is only responsible for polishing bearings. Apprentice B only saws wood. Master C only handles the final assembly. Everyone performs only one action, doing it until they can do it flawlessly with their eyes closed. Fully standardized, this is an assembly line. As long as the assembly line got running, let alone the Montague family, even if you tied all the 5 great noble families of the empire together, I could bury them alive with fabric. I stood in front of the stained glass window, watching the carpenters sprint out holding the blueprints, while Thomas also rushed off frantically to allocate funds. The old prime minister, going to impeach me at the morning assembly the day after tomorrow? Old fox, I'm just afraid you won't jump out. Just then, the sound of urgent footsteps came from outside the door. An undercover guard knelt on one knee, handing over a blood-stained secret report. I unrolled it, and a cruel sneer curled on my lips. Duke Archibald, since you want to play big, this prince will play with you properly. Setting down the report, I immediately poured my energy into preparing for the dimensional strike. Staring at Thomas, the head butler of the guild, I issued several ironclad orders in succession. Once the spinning machines are made, immediately assign people to test production. Furthermore, notify our sleeper agents in the south to immediately purchase southern white cotton seeds at a high price and expand the planting scale. Thomas was stunned. Your Highness, transporting cotton from the south is a long journey. Our costs will rise massively. I scoffed. Look at the bigger picture. Aren't those bastards from the Grand Duchy of Solaria always jumping around? Buy their cotton at prices far higher than what they get for growing grain. Make all the commoners of Solaria grow cotton. Then, well, buy grain in bulk from nearby areas and sell it to them at cost. Thomas was bewildered. He didn't understand. This was basic economic warfare. In less than 3 years, the Grand Duchy of Solaria wouldn't even be able to grow a mouthful of life-saving grain. Their lifeline would be entirely in my hands, and they would collapse without a fight. The stumbling blocks affecting my money-making had to be eliminated in advance. After finishing these instructions, I also smashed the blueprints for the flying shuttle loom onto Master Gregor's desk. Then I continued organizing Thomas. Find someone to translate the technical documents I brought out. Immediately start mass captive breeding of swamp pigs, and purchase large quantities of animal fat and vegetable oil. Oh, and go roast some eastern tea leaves. The Empire's nobles despised captive-bred swamp pigs, considering them food only fit for the lower classes. But I knew that a pig was a treasure trove from head to tail. Not only was the meat fragrant, but the extracted fat was the core ingredient for making the god-tier daily necessity soap. This time, I was going to reshuffle the Valoria Empire's basic living necessities from head to toe. Just as I finished handing out tasks, a royal guard stumbled into the room. Your Highness, Her Majesty the Empress has issued a decree, summoning you to the royal palace immediately. The guard dropped the message and ran, probably afraid I would beat him up. I stroked my chin. Empress Eleanor called for me? She was usually extremely good to me. Could it be that she was standing up for that grandson Arthur this time? Regardless, I put on my defensive gear for taking a beating first. I stuffed 2 thick leather pads inside my elaborate robes, mounted my horse, and headed straight for the Empress chambers in the Sun Palace. As soon as I reached the grand doors, the 2 maids hurried to push them open. I raised my voice and yelled, "Mother, I'm here." Note, in Western courts, non-biological mothers holding the title of queen are still respectfully addressed as mother. Just as I stepped over the threshold and looked up, holy crap, that old troll, Emperor Aurelius, was actually here too. Even more outrageously, Arthur, sporting a pair of panda eyes, was standing at the corner. Without a second word, my foot slipped and I turned to run. Mother, I suddenly remembered I have a gift for you that I forgot to bring. I'll be right back. Empress Eleanor burst out laughing. Get back here. Aurelius bellowed, his voice booming like a bell. I didn't even turn my head and kept trying to slip away. Oh my, mother, I think I hear father calling me. I'll go see him first. If you dare leave today, I'll marry Cecily off tomorrow. The emperor sneered. Screech. I grabbed the heavy oak door handle, slammed the brakes, turned around, and plastered on a fake smile. Huh? Father, you were here all along. I thought you were outside. Arthur's eye twitched violently in the corner. He was probably cursing me in his heart, wondering how this ruthless maniac dared to brush off the emperor of the empire so casually. Empress Eleanor smiled and called me inside. Silas, come in. No one is hitting you today. I called you here to discuss Cecily's marriage. Upon hearing this, I immediately activated my bluffing mode. Mother, the only one worthy of Cecily must be a great hero who holds up the sky and the earth. His martial arts must rival a dragon slayer, and his intellect must not fall short of the great sage Merlin. At the very least, he has to be a battle-hardened imperial marshal. Aurelius' mouth twitched wildly, his eyes looking like he wanted to slaughter me. I pretended not to see it and kept blowing hot air. Our Cecily has a face like a flower and skin like ice and snow. In terms of beauty, calling her a peerless beauty on par with the elf queen or a siren is not an exaggeration. Shut up. The old emperor finally couldn't hold back. It's bad enough you're uneducated and incompetent, but you dare spout such nonsense. What siren? Those are monsters from pagan myths. Who looks like that? My skin was thicker than a city wall, and I stubbornly stuck my neck out. Who says there aren't any? In the epic of the Fallen Kingdom that I wrote, the female lead Alara is a peerless beauty. If I say they exist, they exist. The emperor rolled his eyes in anger. You, writing a long epic? Have you no shame? Cut the crap. Cecily is 15. She'll be 16 next year and must marry. Today, in front of Arthur, state your demands. As long as he can fulfill them, you are not allowed to beat him up anymore. I glanced at Arthur huddled in the corner and sneered. Fine, you want me to set conditions, huh? I crossed my arms. My demands aren't high. He just has to beat me in a duel. Arthur turned purple from the grievance. If he could beat me, would he be getting beaten up once a month? The old emperor slammed the table. Talk properly. I threw my hands up. Fine. Ancient sages say a knight must master the 6 arts: swordsmanship, horsemanship, archery, heraldry, theology, and mathematics. As long as he doesn't fall behind me in all 6, he'll accept it. Arthur was in total despair. I was ranked first in mathematics in the empire, and I could abuse him single-handedly in swordsmanship. How could he compete? Seeing him unable to squeeze out a single word for half a day, I stopped wasting time and threw out my ultimate weapon. I turned to the emperor and empress and decisively raised one finger. Father, mother, growing up, I, Silas, haven't taken much money from the royal family. I have only one condition, with a 1-year time limit. This time next year, the betrothal gifts the Duke's family presents to ask for my sister's hand absolutely cannot be less than the dowry I personally prepare for her. If their betrothal gifts are less than my dowry, the engagement is completely void. Remember, it's the dowry I, Silas, personally provide. I will absolutely not use a single copper coin from father's treasury. Aurelius was stunned. This condition sounded incredibly reasonable. The Archibald family was the empire's foremost authority. Their businesses spread across the land, and they were obscenely wealthy. Meanwhile, I was just an idle prince living off an annuity. No matter how you looked at it, the prime minister's family was guaranteed to win. I turned and stared at Arthur, mocking him mercilessly. Arthur, are you a man or not? If you can't even produce this much for betrothal gifts, is my sister supposed to marry you and drink the northwest wind? Arthur was struck dumb by my taunts. He couldn't make decisions about his marriage and could only meekly say he would go back and ask his father. I turned back to the emperor and empress. Father, mother, I'm putting my words right here. If the Duke's family cannot achieve this, the engagement is immediately cancelled. Do you both agree? Empress Eleanor, seeing my resolute attitude and wanting to smooth over the conflict, went with the flow. All right, as long as the Duke's family cannot do it, the engagement is cancelled. The old emperor also nodded in agreement, simultaneously warning me not to look for trouble with Arthur for this 1 year. I agreed wholeheartedly and made a swift retreat. Not far outside the hall, I saw my 3-year-old sister Lily holding hands with another sister, looking at me eagerly. Third brother, little Lily pounced over in her childish voice. Sister cried. My heart tightened, and I quickly walked toward the royal gardens. I saw Cecily sitting on a marble bench wiping away tears, her little face crying like a smudged cat. Seeing me, she couldn't hold it in anymore and threw herself into my arms, sobbing loudly, Third brother, I don't want to marry Arthur. In this era, political marriages between nobles were the norm. But I had long ago told Cecily all about the filthy things Arthur did in the red light districts. There was no way she would be willing. I hugged her shoulders tightly, my tone absolute. Don't worry, you won't marry him. As long as the old Duke dares to agree, 1 year from now, your third brother will absolutely smash out an astronomical dowry that the entire continent couldn't match. I guarantee it will shatter that old bastard's presbyopic eyes. Cecily looked up through teary eyes and actually blushed, saying she would give me all the gold coins she had saved up. I laughed out loud and rubbed her head, casually instructing her to stop lending money to that spendthrift, Simon, our treacherous 6th brother. After comforting the little girls, I strode out of the palace. On the other side, Arthur ran back to the Duke's estate with his panda eyes and told Duke Archibald the entire gambling agreement word for word. The old fox slammed the table and stood up in a fury upon hearing it. Being rubbed into the dirt by a single prince was a slap in the face to the Duke's family, but after careful calculation, he concluded that my Horizon Guild was nothing more than an agency doing arbitrage. He immediately ordered an alliance with the Montague family, preparing to cut off my guild's supply lines and thoroughly blacklist me. At the same time, he gritted his teeth and decided to fiercely impeach me at tomorrow's royal morning assembly, ruining my reputation and thoroughly severing my chances of becoming crown prince. Early the next morning, the royal morning assembly was held as scheduled. Just as I settled into my chair below the throne, Duke Archibald couldn't wait to jump out, loudly proclaiming, Your Majesty, this subject impeaches His Highness the Third Prince, Silas. He plays with objects and loses his ambition, beats the children of nobles all day long, and lingers in the capital's courtesan clubs. I beseech your majesty to confine his highness to his quarters to reflect on his mistakes. The Duke of the Wild Boar, veteran General Cedric, rolled his eyes wildly from the sidelines, leaning against his greatsword and actually dozing off. He was probably complaining internally that this old fox was rehashing the same stale topics every day without any originality. I couldn't be bothered to pretend anymore either. I stood right up, pointed at the Prime Minister's nose, and cursed, Your Grace the Duke, are you done yet? yet? Can you find another excuse? You've been farting the same fart for years. If you're not tired of it, I'm tired of hearing it. The entire assembly of civil and military officials jolted awake instantly, all staring at me like I was a monster. Previously, whenever the Prime Minister impeached me, I would always try to quibble. Today, I was actually confronting him head-on in court. Archibald sneered, instantly seizing on my words. His Highness feels no remorse, which exactly proves he needs to be confined and focus on his studies. Why should I feel embarrassed? I suddenly raised my volume, my voice echoing through the grand hall. Am not the crown prince. If I don't lose myself in playthings, am I supposed to strive for good governance? I'll lay it out right here today. If I strive for good governance and train soldiers and generals, would my eldest brother be able to sleep at night? Boom! Dead silence. The air seemed to freeze instantly. Several nobles choked on their own saliva in sheer terror, coughing violently. The handsome older Count Valerius widened his eyes in horror, and the dozing old Cedric was so scared he almost slid off his chair. Even Archibald's brain crashed. Is this something that can be said in public? The Emperor Aurelius sitting up there had seized the throne through a coup d'etat precisely by training soldiers and generals. My words were basically a frantic, point-blank barrage right to the old Emperor's face. Crown Prince Edward, sitting nearby, broke out in a cold sweat. The Emperor's face turned black as the bottom of a pot, trembling with anger. Silas, shut your mouth. I quickly let out a laugh, showing no fear. Calm your anger, father. I just spoke too fast. Anyway, I'm just going to be an idle prince. Even if you tried to stuff the crown into my hands, I wouldn't want it. The entire assembly of civil and military officials kept their heads down, playing dead, not daring to breathe. Seeing that the timing was right, I immediately turned my guns back on Archibald. Lord Duke, stop dragging out useless topics. Aren't you just mad that I blocked your son's marriage yesterday? Today, with all the important ministers of the empire present, I'll ask you publicly one more time, with a one-year time limit, if your family's betrothal gifts next year cannot compare to the dowry I personally prepare for my sister, the engagement is immediately voided. Do you dare accept? The veteran General Cedric, that old sly fox, reacted extremely quickly and immediately stirred the pot. Exactly. Lord Duke, your family's wealth rivals the nation's. Don't tell me you can't even match a dowry prepared by a single prince? That would be far too stingy. Count Valerius also raised his voice to fan the flames. Archibald was being roasted over a fire, his face flushed purple like pig liver. He gritted his teeth and roared, "Fine, I accept. If my family's betrothal gifts are inferior to his highness dowry, this old man will have no face to seek the prince's hand in marriage. Good. A noble's oath is worth its weight in gold. Let everyone bear witness." I clapped my hands, directly bypassing the emperor to nail the matter down. The old emperor, sitting on his throne, couldn't even get a word in and could only stare helplessly. Done. I swaggered back to my chair. The Duke, forced to swallow a bitter pill, retreated indignantly. A meticulously prepared impeachment had been ruined by me and turned into a joke. After the assembly was dismissed, the officials left the Sun Palace in turn. I made a decisive escape, avoiding potential punishment from the old emperor, and waited directly outside the archway that was the required path for the cabinet courtyard. Soon, the Prime Minister and Crown Prince Edward walked over together, followed by old Cedric and a group of military generals. Seeing me, Archibald's heart probably skipped a beat, thinking I was going to throw a sack over him and beat him up. I ignored him entirely and went straight to Crown Prince Edward. "Eldest brother, I've been waiting for you. I heard the Gilded Lily Club has a new hostess whose sonnets are absolutely incredible. My treat today, they'll take you to enjoy earthly pleasures at the club." Archibald's face instantly turned pitch black. He had just impeached me in court for lingering in places of ill repute, and I immediately turned around and tried to drag the crown prince off to go whoring right in front of him. Old Cedric couldn't hold it in any longer and laughed so hard he bent over backward. "Your Highness, the Lily Club isn't just for listening to sonnets. Ha ha ha." The civil officials stepped aside. The Prime Minister snorted coldly, flicked his sleeves, and stormed off. Edward shook his head helplessly. "Go by yourself, third brother. Your eldest brother still has state affairs to attend to." Having achieved my goal, I didn't bother with further nonsense. I gave a slight bow with my hand over my heart, took my leave, and headed straight to my territorial estate outside the city. For the next few days, I stayed behind closed doors. Aside from the textile industry, I planned to bring out the glass manufacturing technology from the modern warehouse. In this medieval era where even polished copper mirrors reflected a distorted face, creating transparent glass and silvered mercury mirrors, and casually selling a piece as natural crystal could empty the pockets of the empire's nobles in minutes. Archibald wanted to kill me with a commercial blockade? He was dreaming. Only one day passed. The heavy wooden door of the estate study was pushed open violently. The head butler, Thomas, rushed in with a face full of wild joy, trembling with excitement. "Your Highness, Master Gregor and the others have built it. The spinning machine and the loom have both been successfully test-produced." I shot up from my seat, a sharp light bursting from my eyes. "Old Prime Minister, you want to see who has more money? Get ready to eat my exhaust." Tossing aside the secret report, I took head butler Thomas straight to the secret workshop outside the city. In the courtyard, the newly assembled machines were neatly lined up. A spinner took a deep breath and vigorously turned the large flywheel on the side. The gears bit together tightly, and with a muffled hum, the large flywheel instantly drove 16 small flywheels to spin at high speed. The prepared flax and wool intertwined and were drawn into 16 straight yarns in the blink of an eye. The speed was exactly 16 times faster. Next, we tested the flying shuttle loom. The wooden shuttle moved so fast inside the loom that it left afterimages, darting back and forth, instantly rocketing efficiency by 8 times. Thomas trembled with excitement, gulping hard as he reported the math to me. Your Highness, from buying raw materials to a full bolt of cloth, including carriage freight, our costs have been slashed to 1/20th. Others spend 210 copper coins to make a bolt of fine linen. We only need 96. The market price is 300. I sneered. The early empire simply didn't have enough coinage, so bolts of silk and fine linen circulated directly as hard currency. This wasn't a loom. This was a goddamn money printer. I turned and stared intensely at Chief Craftsman Gregor. 600 apprentices. Open the assembly line at full capacity. Mass-produce these machines like there's no tomorrow. When the cotton in the south ripens, I want to slaughter my way through the empire's fabric market. I'm going to dig up the Montague family's ancestral graves. Gregor was so scared he dropped to one knee, his eyes filled with fanaticism. I dropped another bombshell. If we succeed in this, he'll go beg father to bestow barren titles upon you craftsmen. Titles of nobility? Upon hearing this, the old carpenters collapsed to their knees on the stone floor. In Valoria, artisans couldn't even lift their heads. I had directly painted them a massive pie spanning across classes. No one would dare not risk their lives for this. With the production end secured, I returned to my study. I pulled out that great leader's little red book from my coat, opened it, and studied it carefully. A killer plan took shape in my mind. I called Thomas over and pointed to the major provinces on the parchment map. Listen, we are going to restructure the Horizon Guild. We are not going to directly steal business from the bottom tier. We are going to win over the local minor nobles and small landowners. Thomas looked confused. I slammed my hand on the table, speaking rapidly. Do the math. Producing a bolt of cloth themselves costs them 120 copper coins in labor and materials. We directly tell them, hand the raw materials over to me, and the processing fee is only 100. They don't even have to pay carriage fees. My ironclad mercenaries will pick up the goods from their doorstep. They can make more money just lying down. Will they do it or not? Only an idiot wouldn't. Thomas' eyes widened. Exactly. I sneered continuously. Once these minor lords all become our clients, the next year, they'll directly issue guild dividend rights and tie them all to the Horizon Guild's war chariot. This is called surrounding the cities from the countryside, uniting all forces that can be united, completely hollowing out the foundations of the great noble houses. What will the 5 great families amount to then? Thomas was dumbfounded. His worldview had taken a nuclear-level hit. He looked at me as if looking at a deity descended to earth. Take this prince's seal and go execute this immediately. If anyone dares to doubt you, smash them with the royal title of a prince of the blood. After organizing the fabric business, over the next few days, the glass workshop and the soap workshop operated at full capacity. The fragrant soap rendered from swamp pig fat took shape, and the greenish raw glass was successfully pressed. The most ruthless part was that the silvered mercury mirrors were completed. When the life-sized mercury mirror stood in the courtyard, everyone was left staring blankly. Flat, transparent, reflecting even the fine hairs on a face with absolute clarity. I snapped my fingers. Make 10 large mirrors. Make 30 small mirrors. Box them up and head to the palace. This prince is going to shear some wool off my old man. Arriving at the Sun Palace, I had people carry the large boxes straight to the Empress chambers. My so-called father, Emperor Aurelius, and Empress Eleanor were admiring the scenery in the back garden. Before I even got close, the old emperor's roar crashed over me. Silas, I didn't go looking for trouble with you, and you still dare to show up? Why didn't you attend the royal assembly yesterday? I paused my steps and yelled back righteously, Father, what's the point of attending the assembly? I said it last time, I'm just an idle prince. If I strived for good governance and expanded our territories, would eldest brother the crown prince be able to sleep at night? I am sharing your burdens. The old emperor rolled his eyes in anger. Empress Eleanor laughed so hard she bent over, quickly smoothing things over by asking what gift I had brought. I waved my hand, and the royal guards brought out the tallest oak box, assembled the black walnut base, and stood the full-body mirror upright. The outside was still draped in red velvet cloth. Mother, this is what I went bankrupt to honor you with. Saying that, I yanked the red cloth off. Swish! Sunlight hit the mercury mirror, flashing a blinding light. Empress Eleanor let out an ah of surprise and stood frozen. Even Aurelius' eyes widened sharply, forcibly swallowing back an exclamation. What is this? The Empress quickly stepped forward, looking at her incredibly detailed reflection in the mirror, her face full of disbelief. No matter how much the Empire's copper mirrors were polished, they were still blurry. Who had ever seen such a divine artifact? I immediately activated my best actor mode, speaking with deep emotion. Mother, this is called a glazed silver mirror. As the saying goes, behind every successful man, there is a woman silently contributing. Father is where he is today entirely because of your support. To research and develop this mirror, I spent the very last bit of money in my territory. I can't even pay my knight's salaries, but I absolutely have no regrets. Empress Eleanor was so moved her eyes turned red. You've suffered, my good child. How much is this mirror? Mother will pay you for it. Absolutely not. I sharply turned my head and stared intensely at Aurelius. We absolutely cannot let you pay this money. As the head of the empire, father is even more an indomitable man. Buying the best things in the world for his wife is a man's responsibility. How could I dare strip father of his responsibility? The old emperor's face instantly turned black as a pot. The old attendant beside him trembled uncontrollably, trying to hold back his laughter. This series of rhetoric was placing him squarely on the roasting rack. The old emperor gritted his teeth and asked sarcastically, "Speak. How much is it?" I held up a thumb. "Not much. 10,000 gold coins. 10,000 gold coins. Are you robbing me?" The old emperor's eyes nearly popped out. I didn't yield an inch. "Father, this is high-end custom-made. In the entire continent, only you, mother, and a few imperial consorts are worthy of using it. Don't you understand limited edition? I made a total of 17 mirrors. You only need to pay 160,000 gold coins. The last one is my free tribute to you." I continued adding value. "Father, you work tirelessly day and night, your hair turning white. My heart aches. This small token of filial piety doesn't even amount to 1/1000th of what you've given to the empire." This chain of flattery left the old emperor feeling refreshed. He snorted coldly, waving his hand grandly. Stop with the melodrama. Do I look like I lack your little bit of money? They'll give you 200,000 gold coins. Consider it a reward for having a conscience. 200,000 gold coins. Startup capital secured. I immediately struck while the iron was hot, lowering my head in a look of shame. "Father, this money burns my hands to hold. I want to use it for a great cause. The crown city is prosperous, but inside and outside the city walls, refugees and beggars roam in flocks. This not only damages your reputation, but is also a security hazard. I plan to build a Valoria Royal Relief Industrial Zone by the White Water River. I will move all my workshops there and prioritize recruiting refugees and orphans to work. Give them bread, teach them a trade. Not only will this solve the refugee problem, but it will also strengthen the nation's power." Upon hearing this, the old emperor's eyes instantly lit up. The chronic refugee problem that had given headaches to past rulers was actually being solved by my idea of relief through labor. Overjoyed, he was just about to open his mouth to offer treasury funds. I immediately stopped him. "Don't, father. This is my filial piety. I will fund it myself. You only need to issue a royal charter, letting the commoners of the world know of your benevolence. Are you kidding? If the court buys shares, who will this industry belong to in the future? I must be the sole proprietor." Hearing that I didn't want treasury money, the old emperor was even more moved. He immediately made the decision on the spot, giving me 10,000 acres of land outside the crown city for free. He even had his secretary bring parchment, brandished his pen, personally signed the royal charter, and stamped it with the Aurelius family wax seal. Taking my old man's edict and the note for 200,000 gold coins, I slipped away faster than a rabbit. Following that, I took the remaining mirrors straight to the residences of my precious younger sisters. My third sister Cecily and little Lily were playing in the garden. Seeing the mercury mirrors I brought out, the little girls screamed continuously, hugging the mirrors and refusing to let go. I pulled Cecily aside and lowered my voice to reveal the bottom line. "See this? This is the divine artifact third brother is using to earn your dowry. Put your heart in your stomach. If the prime minister's family can bring out a betrothal gift more ruthless than this a year from now, it'll write my name backward." Cecily broke into a smile through her tears and nodded vigorously. After comforting my sisters, I turned and charged into the chambers of my birth mother, Imperial Consort Isabella. As soon as I entered, my mother was also stunned upon seeing the mirror. I leaned into her ear and whispered the mission in a low voice. "Mother, do me a favor. Quickly host an afternoon tea party and invite all the duchesses and countesses you are close with. Don't do anything else. Just show off this mirror to them. Remember, just say father bought it because his heart ached for you." My mother was a smart woman and understood my meaning in seconds. This was high-end inner circle hunger marketing. I then instructed Cecily to take a small mirror and visit the crown princess, dropping a bomb on the socialite circle of the crown city. I wanted all the great nobles to know that the empire was about to experience an aesthetic revolution. Leaving the palace, I rode nonstop straight to Rose Avenue. Here stood the empire's largest abyss inn, a property I had forcibly bought from the prime minister's family in my early years. Now, it was undergoing a massive renovation. Walking inside the inn, it was a whole new world. A massive circular structure surrounded by tiers of individual compartments. The floor paved with high-grade milky white birch. This wasn't an inn at all. This was the empire's first modern commercial complex, the Dome Grand Mall. I pointed at the dim, narrow wooden windows and ordered Thomas. Immediately mobilized stonemasons and carpenters to smash all the windows and replace them with massive transparent glass windows. It must be finished within 10 days. Also, have the jacquard looms run through the night. I want dark patterned floral silk and linen that have never appeared in the empire. And the soap, put them in high-end oak box packaging, divided into 3 tiers of quality. Don't sell the best, only sell sell the most expensive. Thomas nodded excitedly. Rest assured, Your Highness, the jacquard loom can increase pattern weaving efficiency 1,000-fold, and all preparations are ready. I clapped my hands in satisfaction, strode out with large steps, and mounted my horse. Thomas quickly asked, Your Highness, where are you going? Nonsense. This prince is going to the Gilded Lily Club to drink flower wine, enjoy the courtesans. I cracked my horsewhip. Thomas was stunned. Your Highness, it's not even dark yet. The club's female entertainers haven't started their business yet. I turned back and glared at him. What do you know? This prince is going in broad daylight to appreciate the artistic mastery of the chief hostess. You bunch of Philistines simply don't understand my profound intentions. Leaving Thomas behind, I rode off. Next, I would let Duke Archibald truly taste the flavor of despair inside the imperial capital. I turned my horse around and headed straight to the money-squandering den of Rose Avenue, the Gilded Lily Club. Don't look at me with dirty thoughts. In Valoria, going to a club to listen to bards sing and watch entertainers dance was standard for upper-class nobles. At the entrance, several male servants saw me and were so scared they bowed until their backs were almost touching the ground. In the past, they had dared to block me, and their endings were tragic. Now they had learned their lesson, raising their voices to announce inside, His Highness Prince Silas has arrived. I strode into the hall. Today was the Harvest Festival, so there were quite a few people. With a quick sweep of the room, I saw Gareth, the veteran general's son, Roland, and a bunch of other second-generation military heirs. I walked over and sat down heavily. Gareth leaned over, winking. Your Highness, I heard the Lily Club got a new chief hostess. We came to expand our horizons. Going to have some fun later? Get lost. I glared at him. Do I look like a crude person? Why do you immediately think of causing trouble the moment we meet? As soon as my words fell, a drunken voice came from the staircase on the second floor. Silas? What the hell does he know about sonnets and art? I raised an eyebrow. Looking up, I saw a stumbling figure walking down. Recognizing the face, Gareth and the others completely changed their expressions. That was my seventh uncle, Prince Lucas. Although he was only a year older than me, generationally, he was my elder. This guy fancied himself an elegant noble and looked down the most on a brute like me. Today, after having too much to drink, he actually dared to curse me in public. I sneered and stood straight up. Gareth was terrified. He grabbed my arm in a death grip and begged in a low voice, Your Highness, my good Highness, please don't. You just said you aren't a crude person. He is your own uncle. If you beat an elder while sober, His Majesty the Emperor will peel your skin off. Who said I was going to throw hands? I brushed his hand away. Turning around, I picked up an entire barrel of malt ale from the neighboring table. The young noble at that table turned pale with fright. No, no, no. Smashing an oak barrel down will kill someone. Smash him? That was too devoid of technical skill. I raised the barrel, tilted my neck back, and gulp, gulp, gulp like drinking water. I chugged the 10+ degree ale straight down into my stomach in one breath. Emptied it completely. The whole room was dumbfounded. Who didn't know I had a terrible alcohol tolerance and would pass out after one cup? Smash! I shattered the barrel on the ground and let out a loud, drunken burp. My eyes instantly glazed over, and my body started swaying. Feigning drunkenness, I was a professional. With a thick tongue, I pointed at Lucas on the stairs and hurled abuse. Was it you who just cursed me? Let me tell you, even if the Emperor himself stood here today, I'd have a bone to pick with him. The onlookers' brains were buzzing. You're not allowed to hit a drunkard, so you directly chug yourself into a crazier drunkard, and you even dare to curse the Emperor. Seeing me like this, Lucas sobered up halfway from sheer fright, turning to run back upstairs. Bullying the young, are we? Throwing your weight around. My feet traced drunken steps, but my speed was as fast as lightning. In 2 bounds, I was up the stairs, grabbed his velvet cape from behind, and directly flipped him onto the ground. I turned him over, mounted him, and started swinging my fists. Bang, bang, bang. My hands were extremely measured. The muscle memory built from beating Arthur for 8 years meant every punch landed solidly, bruising the flesh without damaging the bones or tendons, but it absolutely hurt enough to make him wail like a ghost. Lucas struggled madly, waving his hands wildly, but how could he block my fists, which were the size of sandbags? The surroundings were deathly silent. Gareth and the others stared at their noses, and their noses pointed to their hearts. Who dared to step up and break up the fight? Pull away a prince who was throwing a drunken fit? Were they tired of living? The club's proprietress, Countess Matilda, was so anxious she slapped her thighs, pleading with a bitter face. Young masters, please pull His Highness away. Gareth backed up repeatedly. Madam, it's really not that I want help. His Highness is hammered and even dared to curse the Emperor. If I go up there and take a heavy punch, whose fault would that be? After beating him for half an incense stick's time, I shook my sore wrists and climbed up from the ground. Pretending my feet were unsteady, I grabbed the stair railing and pointed at Prince Lucas, whose face was swollen like a pig's head on the floor. Let me tell you, you better hurry up and complain to my father. If you go too late, don't blame me for going to my dad to complain about you. The people below trembled, trying to hold in their laughter. 2 princes fighting, and then threatening to tattle to their respective dads. The Emperor. This scene was too surreal. Lucas clutched his swollen face, not daring to let out a single fart, and crawled his way out of the club. I clapped my hands, turning to look at the dumbfounded group of young nobles downstairs who liked to pose as elegant intellectuals. What are you looking at? Coming here to listen to serenades? Acting all high and mighty like pure nobles? If you crave their bodies, just say it straight. Acting like you came to take an exam at the theological seminary, you hypocrites. I walked with a staggering gait toward the red velvet stage in the center. The 4 devastatingly beautiful chief hostesses on stage immediately came down to greet me. The leader was Isabella, extremely beautiful with a graceful figure. She didn't avoid suspicion at all. Her hands, wearing white velvet gloves, steadily supported my arm, her face full of concern. Your Highness, are you all right? Do your hands hurt? Seeing this scene, the eyes of the young nobles below turned so red they almost dripped blood. The top entertainers of the imperial capital were incredibly haughty. Usually, you could throw hundreds of gold coins and not even get to kiss their hands. But now, they were warmly inquiring about my well-being. Ha! I sat heavily onto the high-backed soft chair on the stage, waving my hand to indicate I was fine. I turned to look at these shy girls and smiled. They don't understand you, but I do. You fear your youth passing, you fear wasting your time, and you fear even more meeting the wrong man. The whole room was quiet. A few young masters snorted coldly in defiance. I stopped the nonsense, cleared my throat, and directly brought out an incredibly sorrowful short folk poem from my past life. Yesterday the rose first bloomed, drawing the princes to pause. Gold buys a smile, but cannot exchange for an inch of true heart. I fear most this tender face, like mist stolen ruthlessly by the years. If I could meet a returning knight, I would abandon this hall full of cheers, vanish into the smoke and fire of a normal life, and never let the world watch me be like the morning clouds and evening rain. As the words fell, a pin drop could be heard in the Gilded Lily Club. Tears instantly welled up in Isabella's beautiful eyes, and she lifted her skirt to bow deeply. This short poem had completely captured the bitterness, helplessness, and longing for a good husband of the women in their line of work right down to their bones. The nobles below were completely dumbfounded. Is this the barbaric prince who carries his fists around to beat people up all day? They couldn't squeeze out half a line of a peerless love poem like this even if they were beaten to death. Your Highness, Isabella's voice was soft to the bone, choked with sobs. Some thoughts are called filthy when hidden away. For you to say them openly and honestly shows a magnanimous heart. If your Highness does not disdain me, Isabella is willing to serve by your side for a lifetime. This lowly life is yours, and even death would not be enough. The proprietress Matilda down below saw black spots dancing before her eyes. If she let me keep doing this, her cash cows would all run away with me. Isabella turned directly to the proprietress. Madam, we sisters are feeling unwell today. Close the doors. We are declining guests. Matilda quickly used the excuse to step down, refunding the money and clearing out the guests below. Gareth and the others looked at each other and slunk away in disgrace. The massive Gilded Lily Club instantly had only me as its single customer. I didn't go upstairs. Instead, I had the proprietress call all the girls and musicians in the building to the hall. 32 girls stood in a row, ranging from plump to slender, each one radiant. Let me ask you, I knocked on the table. Have you ever thought about living a different kind of life? A life where no one looks down on you, where no one controls your identity. Shopping on the streets, buying rouge, marrying the person you like when you meet them, and raising children? The girls all froze. One girl smiled bitterly. Your Highness, we are all indentured servants who signed cellar bodies contracts. Being a mistress to a great lord in this life is already considered a good fate. How could we dare hope for anything else? Matilda sensed something was wrong and asked urgently, Your Highness, what exactly do you mean? I don't mean anything. I want to redeem your contracts. I leaned back in my chair, looking around the room. In buying all of them, the hall instantly exploded. A 30-something dancer, who still retained her charm, boldly joked, Your Highness, if you take us all back to your castle, can you handle it? But don't worry, we not only know how to dance but also how to serve people. My face darkened. I did not see that joke coming. Cut the crap. Do I look like that kind of sleazy person? I raised my voice, overpowering the room. I'm redeeming you because I value that you have remained untainted despite the mud you live in. For the next year, you will work for me in a different place. After 1 year, I will find the connections to erase your slave statuses and release you all as free women. Whoever wants to marry, this prince will personally prepare a dowry for her. Dead silence filled the room. Isabella covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. A free woman identity. This was something they didn't even dare to dream of. The empire's class system was rigid. Once you fell into slavery, you were someone's private property for generations. And I was actually promising to give them their freedom. Several sentimental girls dropped directly to the carpet, sobbing uncontrollably. Too lazy to watch this overly emotional scene, I waved to the proprietress. Come, let's talk privately. Walking into the inner room, I stared into Matilda's eyes and threw down the winning card directly. Madam, the backer behind the Lily Club lost their power a long time ago, didn't they? You've been pulling a tiger's skin to act as a grand banner these past few years. It's been exhausting holding it up, hasn't it? Matilda trembled all over, her facade of strength instantly collapsing. She smiled bitterly and lowered her head. Your Highness is perceptive. I've hidden this secret for years, but it seems you've finally discovered it. I won't waste words. I've bought this building, and from now on, you're still the general manager. I won't take a single penny of your past profits, keep it all. I only want their contracts. Matilda dropped to one knee without hesitation to kiss my ring. From today on, in life Matilda is your Highness person, and in death, your Highness ghost. Done. I walked out of the room, stood on the high stage, and loudly announced, From today on, the Gilded Lily Club is permanently closed. All of you, move to the Dome Grand Mall on Rose Avenue. Over there, only this prince decides what you perform. If anyone dares to lay a finger on you, this prince will personally break their legs. All tips go directly to you. 2 days off every month. Work for a full year and your freedom is returned. Thank you for your grace, your highness. The 32 girls curtsied in unison, their shouts shaking the ceiling. With instructions given, I left a royal guard behind to watch over the taking down of the signboard, turned and left the building. That night, inside the Sun Palace, Emperor Aurelius, having heard the attendant's report, furiously slammed his desk and stood up. Beating Arthur was a fight between peers, but beating his own uncle was high treason. But before he could explode, the old attendant quietly added from the side, "Please calm your anger, your majesty. Think about it." His Highness Silas knew that hitting an elder would ruin his reputation, yet he deliberately got himself drunk to use alcohol as an excuse to act out. From now on, any of those old nobles in the Crown City who want to cause trouble for His Highness will have to weigh whether they can withstand a beating, won't they? The old emperor froze. After mulling it over carefully, his eyes changed. Good boy. The emperor couldn't help but laugh out loud. He really didn't read those military strategy books for nothing. Using the most bastardly method to establish the most ruthless authority. Fine, pretend we don't know about this. Let him do as he pleases. Early the next morning, the Crown City was completely in an uproar. In the streets and alleys, everyone was spreading the rumor. A prince of the blood and the prince fought over jealousy at the club. The prince, furious for the sake of a beauty, got himself drunk, beat up his own uncle, and forcibly bought the entire Gilded Lily Club. Hearing Thomas report this gossip, I almost died laughing. These nobles had incredible imaginations. But this was perfect. The more absurd I acted, the more relieved my old man would be, and the less resistance I would face making money. Duke Archibald definitely got the news too. He sneered at home, thinking that my buying a club and taking in refugees was just throwing money into a bottomless pit, and that I was relying purely on selling a few glass mirrors to recoup costs, making me utterly insignificant. Old fox, just wait to cry. Over the next few days, the people of the imperial capital noticed something strange. The supermassive building complex Abyss Inn located on Rose Avenue was suddenly wrapped tightly in huge red silk cloths. Not even a fly could get in. Nobody knew what the hell was going on inside. Meanwhile, I was taking Thomas on a tour of the renovation site inside. The Empire's first modern commercial complex, the Dome Grand Mall, was about to be born. Surrounding the massive circular main hall were tiers of independent, loft-style shops. The ground was entirely paved with high-grade milky white birch. What shocked Thomas the most was that all the narrow wooden lattice windows had been removed and replaced with flat, transparent, massive glass windows. Sunlight poured unhindered into the hall, making it as bright as day. Your Highness, where did you get these chairs and sofas? Thomas pointed at the furniture in the main hall and the second-floor VIP rooms, his eyes practically popping out. I raised my eyebrows proudly. Those were the leather sofas and ergonomic office chairs that I spent an entire night hauling directly out of the modern office building in my bunker space. Soft leather, sponge padding. When a person sat down, they sank right in, so comfortable they wanted to groan. Underneath were minimalist steel tube support frames. This cross-era industrial design was something the Empire could never produce. I patted Thomas' shoulder. Stop asking questions. How are the jacquard looms I assigned you doing? Thomas quickly gathered his thoughts. To answer, Your Highness, running at full speed. The pure floral high-end silk and fine linen are fully stocked. Additionally, the soap in high-end oak packaging has also entered the warehouse, divided into 3 tiers, exclusively for noble ladies. Excellent. I nodded in satisfaction. This time, I had prepared the ultimate trump card. Last night, the fog in the warehouse had dispersed a bit more, unlocking a completely new section. When I went in, I found it was a dedicated female military logistics supply depot. I pulled out 2 divine artifacts from it that the Empire absolutely did not have. The first was large, highly absorbent military medical adhesive bandages, which would definitely solve the unspeakable monthly troubles of medieval women because medieval hygiene conditions were terrible. The second was olive green seamless tactical sports bras. No flashy lace, just ultimate comfort and breathability. The Empire's noble ladies were still bound in suffocating corsets and rigid whalebone crinolines. Once this hit the market, wouldn't all the young ladies of the imperial capital fight like crazy for it? Keep the red cloth wrapped tight. I stared at the completely refreshed mall hall, my eyes sharp. Once the lead hostesses in the back courtyard finish rehearsing their song and dance, we pull the cloth and open for business. Everything was ready. With this dimensional strike, I was going to drain the blood of the 5 great families. I plunged headfirst into the mall's back courtyard. Isabella and the other chief hostesses who had just jumped ship were rehearsing with flushed faces. Why the blushing? Because I had issued them the modern shaping sports bras I brought out from the spatial bunker. How could the medieval corsets that strangled people to death and the loose linen shirts accentuate their figures? Wearing this special fabric, their postures were instantly upright, their curves fully revealed. As long as I'm not embarrassed, the ones who are embarrassed are everyone else. Don't be shy. Show your professional attitude. I clapped my hands, my gaze sweeping over the large court orchestra behind them, consisting of lutes, harps, and bagpipes. I directly took a popular future song, Exploring the Window, adapted it into a multi-part Celtic-style folk song, The Nightingale and the Rose, and brought it out. The Empire's music was entirely monotonous unison playing. Today, I was giving them a dimensional strike of multi-part chords. These girls were truly Onine-a-million entertainers. To seize this chance to go straight, they were practicing desperately. In just 3 days, the aria was melodious, the harmonies were stunning, and they had it down perfectly. Once preparations were complete, I had Thomas personally deliver invitations to the estates of the Crown City's elite. Crown Prince Edward, the various princes of the blood, and the families of the civil and military officials. I caught them all in one net. But I deliberately left out one person, my dad, Emperor Aurelius. Sure enough, the old emperor in the palace heard the news and slapped his desk so hard it shook the heavens. That rebellious son is doing this on purpose. If he won't invite me, he'll absolutely go. Empress Eleanor laughed so hard beside him she couldn't stand straight. The old emperor was at Sundara, and I understood him perfectly. The more I didn't follow the routine, the more his curiosity clawed at his heart. Opening day, I slept until I woke up naturally, stretching as I got off the modern spring mattress in the VIP guest room and went downstairs. In the first floor hall, Isabella and the others had already changed into their brand new performance outfits. The young girls looked at the clothes they were wearing, not even knowing where to put their hands and feet. A beige base outlined with red edges, covered in pink imperial rose crests. The most terrifying part was that these roses weren't stitched on thread by thread. They were dark floral patterns woven directly into the fabric using my jacquard loom. Flat and silky, it was practically divine craftsmanship. Your Highness, this material, it's too precious. Even the Empress in the palace hasn't worn this. Will we get into trouble wearing it out? Isabella's voice was shaking. I waved my hand grandly. I told you to wear it, so wear it. Remember, from now on, our family will have plenty of this kind of fabric. Straighten your backs. Today, you are the face of this mall. Outside the doors, the guests arrived one after another. Simon, the treacherous sixth brother, sneaked over looking shifty-eyed and was immediately scolded by me. This kid actually dared to scam Cecily's gold coins. He was asking for a beating. Next, Crown Prince Edward walked over with a limp. He actually wanted to apologize to me for 7th Uncle Lucas getting beaten the other day. I immediately stopped him. We were brothers. No need for that superficial nonsense. Just then, the urgent sound of royal galloping horses came from afar. The attendant shouted at the top of his shrill voice, "His Majesty the Emperor arrives." The noble families present were entirely dumbfounded. No one expected the Emperor to make an incognito visit. I chuckled inwardly, but outwardly I feigned a look of absolute panic and rushed to greet him. Aurelius jumped off the carriage, walking straight toward me with a dark, majestic face, gritting his teeth. "Silas, are you asking for the whip? A son's lack of discipline is the father's fault, so it is only right that father educates me." My reaction was lightning fast. I abruptly spun around, stuck my butt out towards him, and said, "Father, please kick." Dead silence. Crown Prince Edward's eyes nearly popped out of his head. The old emperor was so angry at my shameless, scoundrel-like behavior that he laughed. He raised his leg and delivered a kick right to my backside. "Get lost. Lead the way." I nimbly scrambled up, dusted myself off, and smilingly handed over 2 modernly designed stainless steel scissors. "Father, mother, the auspicious time has arrived. Please cut the ribbon for the Dome Grand Mall." The emperor and empress cut the red silk, completely bewildered. I shot Thomas a look. Dozens of male servants gave the pull ropes a vicious yank. Swish! The massive red velvet cloth wrapping the entire mall instantly slid down. Whoa! The surrounding nobles and commoners simultaneously erupted in a gasp that nearly tore the roof off. Under the sunlight, embedded within the heavy wooden window frames lining the entire second floor, it wasn't dim parchment paper, but transparent, sparkling glass. When had the people of the empire ever seen such a spectacle? In their eyes, this was basically taking priceless crystals and smashing them into the wall as windows. The old emperor's eye twitched violently as he stared intently at the glass. He was probably cursing internally. "You sold me one full-body mercury mirror for 10,000 gold coins, and you have hundreds of these embedded in this entire building. Did you scam my national treasury?" I pretended not to see it and swaggered to invite the crowd into the first-floor Royal Theater. Entering the doors, the entire crowd was dumbfounded once again. The floor was covered in blood-red carpets, and the audience seats were all ergonomic mesh chairs that I had hauled out of the modern office building. Silver steel tube legs, black elastic mesh backs. The old emperor walked to the front row, poked the mesh backrest with his finger, his face full of suspicion. "Can this net bag hold a person?" "Father, put your heart at ease." The emperor sat down half-doubtingly, tentatively leaning back. The elastic mesh instantly contoured to the curves of his body, giving him perfect support. The old emperor's eyes suddenly lit up. He sank right into it, humming comfortably. The good show began. The timpani struck suddenly, and the red curtain pulled back. Isabella and the other 2, holding feather fans, walked gracefully to the center of the stage. The harp notes shattered, the bagpipes sobbed. There was no messy noise, only highly layered modern chords. Isabella parted her red lips, and the melodious, crisp aria instantly pierced through the hall. She sings, "An old sword met in a strange land. Every step, every sentence is longing." The man in the audience, already wearing a knight's medal, never recognizes the old flame on stage. The moment this singing style came out, it was like a sudden crack of thunder. The empire's nobles, accustomed to monotonous holy chants, were pinned to their chairs by this soul-striking technique. In the back, Gareth was so excited he slapped his thigh. Once the song "The Nightingale and the Rose" finished, the lingering echo geckos curled around the rafters. The three hostesses gracefully curtsied. The entire audience woke up as if from a dream, completely silent. The old emperor tapped the table, staring at me sharply. Silas, don't play dumb with me. The lyrics sing, already wearing a knight's medal, abandoning the old flame. Are you hinting at some newly promoted baron in the cabinet? Speak. Whose dark secret do you want to report? Your old dad will handle him for you today. I almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The old emperor's political sensitivity was too outrageous. Listening to a pop song made him imagine an entire bureaucratic drama. Father, I really wasn't hinting at anyone. I just made it up, I desperately explained. Half believing, the old emperor grabbed me and tested me on music theory. Seeing that I answered fluidly, he actually got angry, snorted coldly, scolded me for neglecting my proper duties, and got up to browse the shops. Walking into the first store, Mirror of Illusions, the old emperor looked at the anti-counterfeit trademark with an S Silas that I had drawn on the signboard and curled his lip. The scope of your trademark is too small. Change it to the Royal Golden Lion Crest. Yes, sir. Showing off by imperial decree. I immediately had Thomas go change it. Stepping into the Mirror of Illusions, the crown princess and the group of female relatives went completely crazy. Dozens of mercury mirrors of various sizes were lined up, reflecting every single hair clearly. The old emperor pointed at the largest half-body mirror and asked the price. I didn't change expression and my heart didn't skip a beat. To answer, father, 4,999 gold coins. The next tier down is 1,999 gold coins. Glass is extremely fragile and the scrap rate is incredibly high. I am losing my shirt on this. Converted to modern prices, one mirror was 4.5 million, an absolute luxury harvesting machine. Next, we moved to the Rose Fragrance Pavilion. The scent of various flowers assailed our noses, and the maids demonstrated washing hands with soap on the spot. At 3 gold coins a bar, the old emperor decided on the spot to purchase in bulk for the inner palace. Finally, we walked into the silk and linen workshop. Looking at the high-end fabrics woven directly with dark patterns using the jacquard loom, the emperor stroked the material, his eyes becoming incredibly deep. These fabrics of yours will offend people. The old emperor gave me a deeply meaningful look. I chuckled. Father, I brought the price down to yield profits to the nobles. Who did I offend? The old emperor saw through it but didn't say it. Before leaving, he grandly waved his hand. Take dozens of those mesh chairs from your theater and move them to the Sun Palace. I want pay for them. Damn it, robber. As soon as the emperor left, the entire mall instantly plunged into a frantic buying spree. The nobles of the empire were truly rich, and their desire to compete with each other was off the charts. Night fell and the mall closed. Head butler Thomas, holding the ledger, trembling like a sieve, literally scrambled into my room. Your Highness, is calculated. How much? I took a sip of red wine. Net profit, 460,000 gold coins. Thomas' voice cracked as he shouted the number. 460,000 gold coins. The Valoria Empire's national treasury only took in a little over 10 million a year. I made 1/20th of the national treasury's money in a single day. Thomas looked like he wanted to die. His previously proud 8-year guild savings of 80,000 gold coins now looked like not even enough to be a fraction of this. I looked as steady as an old dog on the surface, but internally I was ecstatic. However, a problem quickly arose. Your Highness, the limited edition mercury mirrors and silk are completely sold out. But over 400,000 heavy gold and silver coins. They are piled up like a mountain. We simply can't haul them away. Thomas had a face full of sorrow. I stroked my chin, a sharp light bursting from my eyes. Gold coins too heavy? Easy to solve. Make paper money. I immediately ordered Thomas. Quickly go to the territorial estate outside the city and fence off the most hidden wasteland. In making a major move, I prepared to launch Dome Grand Mall exchange vouchers. Want to buy my cheap silk that is exclusive to this continent? Fine, deposit your gold coins in advance, and I'll issue you exchange vouchers. Use the vouchers to pick up goods. Once these exchange vouchers start circulating in the market, this is a goddamn fantasy version of dollar hegemony. To prevent counterfeiting, I had to go back into the spatial bunker in my mind tonight, dismantle all the photovoltaic solar panels on the roof of the building, and drag out a laser printer. Using a modern printer to print Imperial Banknote T7, if those fake seal makers worked themselves to death, they couldn't copy it. Early the next morning, I was once again standing in the court of the Sun Palace's main hall. Just as I was dozing off, thinking about how to set up the solar panels, the old fox Duke Archibald suddenly jumped out. Your Majesty, this subject impeaches His Highness Silas. The Prime Minister wore a look of righteous indignation. The prices of the fabric sold at His Highness Mall yesterday are extremely unreasonable, severely disrupting the market order of fabric acting as hard currency in the empire. I beseech your majesty to forcefully lower the selling prices at His Highness Mall and restrict his profits. The entire assembly rolled their eyes. Who didn't know that Archibald was just jealous that someone else made money and terrified that he wouldn't be able to afford Princess Cecily's betrothal gifts? The old emperor leaned on his throne, smiling but not smiling. Then what do you think should be done? This subject believes special personnel should be assigned to audit His Highness costs, and the cabinet should mandate the pricing. The Prime Minister revealed his true intentions. You want to touch my cake? Old man, you're asking for death. I abruptly stood up from my chair, stepped into the center of the hall, and my voice boomed like thunder. Reporting to your majesty, I believe what the Lord Prime Minister says is absolutely correct. Boom! The entire assembly of officials was dumbfounded. Old General Cedric scratched his ear in disbelief, thinking I had taken the wrong medicine. I ignored everyone's expressions of seeing a ghost and sneered, advancing directly on Archibald. Lord Duke is truly a pillar of the nation. For an empire, price stability is the most important thing. I propose that the Ministry of Finance immediately take the lead in establishing the Imperial Price Control Bureau. All shops, granaries, and fabric stores under the names of the 5 great families must be brought under supervision. Anyone maliciously inflating prices to seek exorbitant profits will be fined, have their homes confiscated, and be stripped of their noble titles. Anyone who doesn't sell according to the state-mandated prices goes to the gallows. I paused for a second and violently dropped the ultimate nuclear bomb. In addition to this, I beseech your majesty to take all iron smelting and salt mining in the world and place them entirely under the royal family, implementing a state monopoly. Iron relates to the equipment of the imperial knights, and salt relates to the life and death of the commoners. We absolutely cannot let the old nobles get their hands on it to extract exorbitant profits. Dead silence. The entire Sun Palace hall fell into a suffocatingly dead silence. Duke Archibald's face instantly turned ghastly pale, and cold sweat rolled down his forehead like a waterfall. Usually, lords only managed prices during famine years. In normal times, prices were entirely dictated by these great nobles. My move to establish a price control bureau was equivalent to smashing the rice bowls of all the powerful families in the world. Even more fatal was the state monopoly on salt and iron. You must know, the largest iron or smelting workshop in the entire empire was in Archibald's own hands. You want to flip my table? It'll blow up your entire castle. Looking at the Prime Minister's legs shaking like a sieve, I shouted loudly, Lord Duke, do you dare second my proposal? The civil and military officials were so scared they almost wet their pants. State monopoly on salt and iron, price supervision. This was pressing the lifelines of the world's powerful families onto the ground and violently rubbing them. Archibald sweated profusely, his mouth open but unable to squeeze out a single word. Seeing that the court was about to explode, Chief Cabinet Minister Reginald suddenly jumped out of the ranks and shouted loudly, this subject impeaches Duke Archibald, using public office for private gain, bringing personal grievances to the court based on emotions, offering no benefit to the empire. Following that, a large group of people stepped out in unison to second the motion. I watched coldly, my mind as clear as a mirror. The chief minister was giving the emperor a way out. My proposal was too ruthless. If the old emperor didn't execute it, the royal family would lose face. If he forcibly executed it, a civil war would immediately break out. Now, by unanimously impeaching the prime minister, it was the perfect excuse to step down. Archibald pinched his nose and admitted defeat, being fined half a year's territorial tax revenue. The old emperor turned and stared fiercely at me. Silas, confined to your prince's estate outside the city for 2 months. Without my decree, you are not allowed to return to the crown city to cause trouble. I accept the decree. I immediately put on a look of deep sorrow, while my heart burst with joy. My dad understands me too well. He knows I don't want to attend the morning assembly for even a single day. How is this a punishment? This is clearly giving me a long paid vacation. Just 2 steps after leaving the court, royal guards stopped me, saying the emperor summoned me to the inner court. I followed the old emperor for a stroll in the royal gardens. He stopped by the fountain and unexpectedly threw out a depth charge. How about I change the decree and make you crown prince? No way. I didn't even think before shaking my head like a rattle drum. Are you kidding? Be the crown prince? Every noble in the court would stare at me looking for faults every day. Eldest brother and fourth brother would try every method to assassinate me. I'd wake up earlier than a rooster and sleep later than a dog. How would I become the richest man on the continent then? The emperor laughed out of anger. Why are you unwilling? If you become emperor, you can do whatever you want. Who would dare stop you? Father, stop deceiving yourself. I threw my hands up. Can you skip court every day to go hunting and traveling outside? Can you chop the head off whichever duke you want and act like a tyrant? Can you casually wipe out the surrounding duchies that offend you? The old emperor's face turned iron blue, and he gritted his teeth. Sooner or later, I will wipe them out. Right, I believe you. Go wipe them out right now. I shrugged, instantly breaking character. You rebellious son. You were just here to piss me off. The old emperor's defenses were completely breached, and he raised his leg to kick me in the butt. I dusted myself off, acting like a dead pig that doesn't fear boiling water. Father, you're getting impatient again. Every time you can't win an argument, you resort to violence. The old emperor glared at me and took a deep breath. Fine, back to business. I will transfer 3,000 Imperial elite soldiers to be your private army, but you have to pay to maintain them yourself. There's such a good deal. My eyes rolled, and I immediately climbed up the pole. Father, keep the elites to guard the borders. Give me all the disabled veterans who are crippled and can no longer go to the battlefield. My relief industrial zone is just lacking security. They'll pay them gold coins for their retirement. You don't even need to provide longswords. I'll buy iron ore and forge the iron myself. The old emperor froze in place. Tens of thousands of disabled veterans had always been a hot potato for the empire's finances, completely impossible to settle. By privately taking them off his hands, I had directly solved his biggest headache. He took a deep look at me and was just about to offer a few words of praise when I took to to my heels and ran outside. Wait, the emperor shouted from behind. In your eyes, what should a good emperor and a good empire look like? I stopped, looked back at him, and loudly recited the famous quote from my past life, emphasizing every word. No political marriages, no reparations, no ceding of land, no paying of tribute. The king shall draw his sword to guard the gates, and the monarch shall bleed to defend the nation. Father, I'm slipping away first. Dropping those words, I sprinted wildly toward my territorial estate outside the city. I left the old emperor standing dumbfounded by the fountain, his mouth repeatedly chewing over those few sentences, his heart surging, unable to calm down for a long time. Whipping my horse, I hurried back to the estate. Thomas handed me a progress report on the refugee intake. I lay on a custom-made rattan chair, comfortably soaking up the sun. Carefree, this is what you call life. Not long after I laid down, a guard ran in, looking terrified, to announce a visitor. I went outside and my brain buzzed, completely exploding. Good Lord, a dozen luxurious carriages bearing the royal crest completely blocked the estate gates. Cecily, little Lily, aside from the ones still nursing, the old emperor had packaged and sent all 14 of the palace's unmarried princesses directly to me. Dad, you are ruthless. I make you angry, so you send a bunch of little ancestors over to torture me, right? Looking at the 14 sisters in front of me, chattering and jumping with excitement, my head swelled. I quickly told Thomas to arrange rooms. A manor full of rough men, without sensible female companions to help entertain the princesses? That wouldn't do. I immediately called a guard, ride fast back to the Crown City, go to the Dome Grand Mall and bring Isabella and the other 3 chief hostesses here to me. The news reached the imperial capital. The 4 chief hostesses were all stunned. Go to the prince's estate to entertain princesses? In the empire, this was an inner-house task that only a prince's official wife or high-ranking noble ladies were qualified to do. They never dreamed that I actually treated them as my own people, directly handing the task of receiving royal blood over to them. The 4 women were so moved their eyes turned red. They changed into casual clothes and rode out of the city at top speed. At dusk, the 4 hostesses arrived. I didn't have time to exchange pleasantries with them. I took them straight to the amusement park in the backyard. In the amusement park, swings, slides, and seesaws were all available. Little Lily was playing, covered in sweat. Seeing me arrive, she stumbled over on her short little legs, threw herself into my arms, and shouted in her baby voice, "Third brother, it's so fun here." I pinched her little nose, turned, and had Thomas bring out a large wooden box filled with numbered parchment slips. Come on, sisters, line up to draw blind boxes. Third brother is giving out gifts. Last night, I took a trip to the spatial bunker, rummaged through the female staff dormitories, and pulled out 24 modern large plush toys. The lethality of these things to medieval little girls was simply nuclear level. Lily drew first, number 11. I lifted the silk wrapping. Wow, the crowd gasped. A snow-white fluffy rabbit, a full meter tall with a carrot tied around its neck, appeared before everyone's eyes. Do you like it? I like it. Lily excitedly pounced on it, hugging the big rabbit tightly. Third brother, it's so soft, much softer than the cloth dolls sewn by the court tailors. Then the other princesses took turns drawing blind boxes. Even the usually aloof and unsmiling 4th princess couldn't help but smile, her eyes curving, when she hugged a little plush bear. The 14 sisters each got a large plush toy, so happy they almost blew the roof off. Lily hugged the big rabbit, raised her little face, and loudly announced, "Third brother, I like you the most. When I grow up, I'm going to marry you." The whole crowd roared with laughter. Children speak without filters. I smiled and rubbed her head. After handing out the plush toys, I had the maids bring out a row of silver trays. On the trays were colorful modern soft-bristled toothbrushes, along with high-end toothpaste squeezed into exquisite crystal bottles. The people of the empire brushed their teeth with coarse salt and boar bristle brushes. I picked up a toothbrush and demonstrated personally, explaining how to squeeze the toothpaste, dip it in water, and brush. The sisters held these little brushes, which were as exquisite as works of art, and their eyes all lit up. Third brother, this must be very expensive, right? Cecily asked cautiously. Use as much as you want. Third brother has plenty. I waved my hand grandly, leading the way to the dining hall. For this dinner, I prepared to completely subvert their taste buds. Medieval cooking techniques were extremely lacking. Besides boiling in water, there was only roasting over a fire, and spices were more expensive than gold. I directly pulled out modern large iron woks and tons of various seasonings from the bunker's 1,000-person cafeteria. What was served on the table was sweet and sour pork ribs, double-cooked crispy pork slices, black pepper steak, braised carp, and cumin roasted lamb. As soon as the dishes were served, the rich aroma of meat and complex spices instantly filled the entire dining hall. The princesses, who had grown up in the lap of luxury, were all dumbfounded. Use your forks, I ordered. No urging was needed. The first bite of the crispy pork slices went down, and the sweet, sour, and crispy texture directly shattered their cognitive limits. The princesses, who were reserved just moments ago, didn't even have time to speak now. Without a word, they lowered their heads and ate frantically. Little Lily ate until her mouth was covered in oil, grabbing a piece of sweet and sour pork ribs and gnawing on it like a little tiger. Even Isabella and the other 3 hostesses, sitting respectfully at the lower end, couldn't control themselves and sped up their eating. This dimensional strike of modern spices and cooking techniques was divine food in Valoria. A whirlwind swept through, and not even the sauce was left on the table. Everyone had eaten until they were stuffed, leaning back in their chairs and rubbing their bellies. I smiled and shooed them into the courtyard to take a walk and digest. Lily held my hand, smacking her little lips, looked up, and asked a soul-searching question. "Third brother, can I stay here with you forever? I don't want to go back to the palace." Cecily laughed out loud from behind. "Third brother, you made so much good food that Lily doesn't want to go home. Watch out, father will get jealous and come running to beat you up." The little girls immediately gathered around, chattering and all demanding that I return to the royal palace. I crouched down, smiling as I scraped their noses. If third brother goes back to the palace, I won't be able to get this good food. Father has many rules and would absolutely never let third brother go to the kitchen and mess around with iron woks and stir-frying. "Do you still want to eat braised pork in the future?" "Yes." Lily immediately defected. "Then third brother, absolutely don't go back to the palace. We will visit you often." I burst into proud laughter. "Dad, oh Dad, you sent these 14 ancestors to torture me, but you didn't know that with one meal, I directly incited a rebellion among your intimate little padded jackets. If you want to beat me up in the future, ask these 14 sisters if they agree first." After arranging for the sisters to rest, the night grew late. The estate quieted down. I turned around and called Simon, the 6th brother, alone into the study. This kid usually idled around, and being a spendthrift was one thing, but a few days ago, he actually dared to scam Cecily's private savings. Looking at his shivering, pathetic appearance, I grabbed the hardwood ruler from behind the door. With a bang, I slammed the door shut. "Sixth brother, come here. Tonight, third brother is going to teach you the rules of being a proper human." After taking care of sixth brother, that monkey who needed a beating, I clapped my hands and walked out of the room, feeling refreshed. It was getting late, so I quickly shooed the group of sisters back to their rooms to rest. When Cecily and the others pushed open their doors, they all froze in place. The Empire's wooden beds were surrounded by heavy tapestries and were rock hard. But in my rooms, right in the center sat a modern double bed, covered with a wool rug. The most exaggerated part was the quilt. Spread out, it was larger than the bed itself. Cecily walked over curiously and pressed down. What looked like a thick quilt sank straight down. The duvet cover on the outside was incredibly smooth. Served by her maids, Cecily finished washing up and lay down on the bed. Her entire body instantly sank into the soft spring mattress, and the goose-down blanket covering her felt as light as a cloud. It was too comfortable. She thought to herself, if third brother sold just one of these bedding sets to the great nobles for tens of thousands of gold coins, people would absolutely fight over it. Knock, knock. A knock on the door, followed by a soft voice. "Is your highness asleep?" "It's Isabella." Cecily immediately thought of the breathtakingly beautiful hostess I had brought back from the club. She frowned slightly, put on a robe, sat up, and spoke in a neutral tone. "Let her in." Isabella entered carrying something and respectfully curtsied. Cecily immediately asserted her dominance, warning her not to take my easygoing nature for granted, and that if she dared to cause trouble, she wouldn't be let off easily. Isabella remained neither haughty nor humble, stating plainly that in the whole world, only His Highness Silas treated her like a human being, and she was willing to repay his grace with her life. Seeing her resolve, Cecily's expression softened, and she promised that if Isabella stayed by my side in the future, she would absolutely back her up. With the warning out of the way, Cecily asked why she had come. Isabella blushed and took out an olive green tank top. "This is women's underwear developed by His Highness. He says the Empire's current corsets are bad for the body. His Highness ordered me to teach the princesses how to wear it." Cecily's face turned red to the roots of her ears. A prince, meddling in the private affairs of ladies. But after Isabella helped her change into this military-grade compression sports bra, Cecily was shocked to find that not only was the fabric comfortable, but her breathing felt infinitely smoother. Her only complaint? The drab military green. The next morning, I saw the girls looking radiant and standing taller. Down duvets and Simmons mattresses, they definitely slept well. After breakfast, Thomas ran in to report, "Your Highness, the old general, Duke Cedric, requests an audience." I perked up. The old emperor was sending people. I strode to the main hall and gave the white-haired general a deep bow. Cedric was startled and tried to dodge the gesture, but I showered him with high hats, praising the imperial soldiers as the backbone of the nation until the old general was beaming with pride. "Your Grace, how many retired soldiers are there?" I asked impatiently. Cedric looked a bit embarrassed. "Less than 5,000, and most have disabilities." "That's it?" I blurted out. The old general was stunned. 5,000 disabled grunts. Feeding and housing them alone was a bottomless pit, and I was complaining there weren't enough? He earnestly advised me not to overstretch. If I couldn't handle it, I should send them back to the Ministry of War. I beat my chest and guaranteed, Rest assured, General. As long as I, Silas, have a bite to eat, they will too. Bring them all tomorrow. In ancient times, human capital is the greatest wealth. 5,000 laborers. Once I smelt steel and start modern industry, the wages I pay them will eventually be spent right back in my mall. A perfect economic closed loop. After seeing the general off, I summoned Thomas. I told him to prepare rations for 5,000 and to continue buying grain aggressively, as the refugees and beggars in the Crown City numbered over 10,000. I wanted them all. Then, I pulled out my trump card, a map of modern mineral resource distributions adapted to the Empire's terrain. This map is a top secret. Find the locations of large iron and limestone mines. Buy up all the copper mines too. Thomas looked at the clearly marked deposits, his eyes nearly popping out of his head as he ran off to get to work. Mines were settled. Now for power. I took my personal guards to a cleared area in the back mountains, setting up a strict perimeter. I pulled photovoltaic panels and UPS uninterruptible power supplies from my bunker space. Most electronics had fried during the transmigration, but luck was on my side. 2 backup UPS units were intact, and an old laptop from the bottom of a cabinet actually powered on. I quickly assembled the 20 kilowatt solar array and plugged in the cables. When the UPS indicator light flickered on, I nearly screamed with joy. Done. In this era, this battered laptop was a nuclear weapon of dimensional strike capability. The next dawn, I headed to the banks of the Whitewater River. Over 700 retired veterans stood in formation. The cavalry commander handed them over to me. I sent the old general away and stepped onto the high platform. Below me were rows of numb, bewildered faces. I am Silas. I took a deep breath. I know what you've heard of Brute, a hothead. But today, no matter what happens, no one is allowed to move. This is your final military order. 4,000 men roared in unison. Understood. I placed my hand over my heart and gave them a deep, solemn bow. The Empire has failed you. On behalf of my father and the Valerian royal family, I apologize. The crowd went into a daze. The commanders almost rushed forward to return the gesture but grit their teeth and stayed still. A high and mighty prince, apologizing to a bunch of disabled mudlegs? It was unheard of. I stood tall and roared. You bled for the country, yet the treasury cannot support you. Why? Because of the hereditary great aristocracy. They control the land, the knowledge, and the wealth. They will never allow commoners like you to live a good life. In a few sentences, I laid bare the class struggle. The eyes of the veterans lit up. Does that mean my father, the emperor, is the culprit? No, the royal family and you are on the same side. We conquer the world through you. I have a dream. I cranked the volume to the max. I dream of a Valoria that commands the 4 seas, no forced marriages, no reparations, no ceding of land, and no tribute, where the king guards the gates of the nation and the monarch dies for the state. I dream of a world where everyone has books to read, land to farm, and bread to eat, where girls can walk the streets with pride. I, Silas, shall spend my life setting up a heart for the world, establishing a life for the people, inheriting the lost teachings of the sages, and forging an eternal peace for 10,000 generations. The 4,000 soldiers couldn't hold it back anymore. Even those with missing limbs struggled to drop to one knee, their eyes bloodshot as they let out a world-shaking roar. We will die for Prince Silas. We will die for Prince Silas. Looking at these fired-up men, I knew I had won their hearts. I immediately announced instructors to teach them literacy and solve their living difficulties. These 4,000 would be the sparks to ignite the Empire's million-man army. The lowly shield and the Emperor's visit. That night, in the Solar Palace, the old Emperor flipped through the secret reports. His expression grew stranger with every page, until finally, he slammed his hand on the table. Good. The old attendant jumped and leaned in to look. He too looked like he'd seen a ghost. Silas' 4 goals were enough to overturn the rule of the aristocracy. If that class theory got out, the 5 great families would tear Silas apart. The emperor snorted, his eyes full of pride. This class analysis hits the mark. Cleared the fog for me. The brat not only cleared the royal family of blame, but tied the commoners of the world to his chariot. I want to see what else he can pull off. Prepare the horses for tomorrow. I'm going for a secret inspection. Meanwhile, in my manor, Cecily overheard 2 maids feverishly reciting my speech. When she heard establishing a life for the people, she stood frozen. My brother isn't a brute. He has the world in his heart. She looked at her delicate hands and a wild thought emerged. I want to learn swordsmanship. I want to be like the Valkyries of legend and protect my brother. I didn't know Dad was coming to check on me, and I certainly didn't know Cecily was planning to become a warrior. All night, I locked myself in the computer room. I opened that old laptop, used MS Paint to drop in an Imperial Rose, and typed, Valerian Dome Mall exclusive gold exchange voucher. I set denominations of 1, 10, and 100 gold coins. I connected the laser printer and loaded the anti-counterfeit paper I brought from the bunker. With the hum of the machine, the Empire's first paper currency was born. Even a master mage couldn't forge this. I stayed up all night and printed over 20,000 notes equivalent to 250,000 gold coins. The next afternoon, with dark circles under my eyes, I handed the vouchers to Thomas. Post a notice at the mall tomorrow. Say some people are paying with fake weight, so the mall will no longer accept heavy metals. Then, launch a VIP membership. Deposits start at 10,000 gold. Give them these vouchers in return. Use them for discounts. Thomas was awestruck by the scheme and ran off to execute it. Feeling great, I gathered my sisters. Let's go. It's a nice day. Third brother is taking you to the Whitewater River for a bonfire barbecue. The girls were overjoyed. Cecily rode her horse beside me and suddenly said, "Brother, can I learn swordsmanship?" I nearly choked on my spit. The most gentle Cecily wants to fight, but I shrugged. If you want to, go for it. But I bet if Dad finds out, he'll blame me. He'll be in for another beating. Cecily giggled, her eyes curving like crescents. Then I thank you for taking the fall, brother. We were galloping across the wilderness, laughter echoing, when a squad of royal knights screeched to a halt at the manor gates. Aurelius dismounted, radiating majesty as he approached Thomas. Save the pleasantries. Where is that little brat Silas? Thomas broke into a cold sweat. Report to His Majesty, His Highness. Took the princesses out for a barbecue picnic. The emperor's smile froze. The blood rushed to his head. He grabbed Thomas by the collar and roared. I ordered him to be grounded. This is how he stays grounded. Take me to that rebellious son of mine. Down by the river, the breeze was pleasant. I was lying on a custom wooden lounge chair under a canopy, a cup of tea by my side. Isabella and several beauties were playing flutes and harps nearby. Lily and the other little girls were frolicking on the grass. The charcoal on the iron grill was glowing. I smugly crossed my legs and hollered, "Life is good. I wouldn't trade this even to be the emperor." Just then, a roar exploded. Silas! I shuddered so hard I flipped right off the chair, tripped over the leg, and ate dirt. Lily and the others burst out laughing. I scrambled up, face covered in dust, only to find the emperor's face as black as the bottom of a pot. I told you to be grounded, and this is what you do. The emperor hissed through gritted teeth. Usually I'd be in for a thrashing, but I had my amulets today. Oh, father, I forgot. Pack it up, back to the castle. I shouted, pretending to be panicked. I didn't even need to signal them. Lily and the two other youngest princesses charged like cannonballs, grabbing the emperor's legs. Father! The rage on the emperor's face vanished. He quickly knelt to pick up little Lily. Father, don't ground third brother. He's so good to us. Lily chirped, giving him a big mwah on the cheek. The other princesses weren't to be outdone, clinging to his neck and showering him with kisses. The lowly shield array completely submerged the Iron Emperor. Had never seen anything like it. He was so happy he forgot his own name. Okay, father won't be the bad guy. I laughed internally. Dad, you sent me 14 sisters to torture me? Today you see the power of the lowly guard. Seeing the timing was right, I helped the emperor up and pulled over a lounge chair. Father, sit and rest. The emperor sat down and glared at me. Stop acting. Don't go back, keep playing. I turned and yelled, keep the music going. Keep the dancing alive. I handed him a cup of freshly roasted red tea. The emperor took a sip, his eyes widening. No onions, ginger, or garlic, just pure, crisp tea aroma. This is good. Send a few pounds to the palace. I rolled my eyes internally but acted generous. A few pounds? They'll prepare green, white, and red tea for you. It's only natural to honor my father. The emperor leaned back, looking at the fields. Those treasonous things you said in the camp yesterday. What were you really thinking? I dropped the act and put on a deep, pensive expression. When I was at Dragon Pass, watching the commoners toiling in the dirt, I heard a bard's song. I had a realization. I paused, looking him dead in the eye. When the dynasty prospers, the commoners suffer. When the dynasty falls, the commoners suffer. Total silence. The emperor was stunned. The attendant was stunned. Even Cecily and the girls froze. That sentence was a dagger that pierced through the veil of aristocratic peace. Seeing Dad sink into heavy thought, I felt a surge of triumph. Dimensional strike via 21st century philosophy. Father, what are you dazing for? The meat is burning. I broke the tension, grabbing some skewers and flipping them, sprinkling a handful of secret chili powder. The aroma of cumin and lamb exploded. The emperor walked over. A prince cooking meat himself? Did you never learn noble etiquette? Looking for a fight, are we? I handed him a skewer. Father, you're taking things out of context. Nonsense. It's just because you're a delinquent. He took a bite of the meat anyway. I leisurely picked up a twig and drew in the dirt. Father, the greatest achievement of the first emperor was unifying the script. But he left a massive loophole, punctuation. Right now, scrolls are just a jumble of words. Without a scholar to teach them, commoners can't read them, and it's too easy to twist the meaning. I went into machine gun mode. I used a famous quote from the sage Solon. Let the people follow, do not let them know. Without punctuation, how do people read this? Let the people follow. Do not let them know. That's a policy of ignorance. Let the people follow? No, let them know. That means we must educate them. Father, look. One sentence, two meanings. If your decrees go out and the great lords play word games with them, can the empire survive? Standardizing punctuation is a feat for the ages. The emperor was speechless. He realized I had just turned a defense for grilling meat into a high-level discourse on national governance. Fine. You've finally done something useful. The emperor slapped his thigh. Write a proposal for punctuation immediately. I'm lifting your grounding. Come to court tomorrow to propose it. Lifting the grounding? Are you kidding? I had work to do at the manor. Who wants to wake up early to freeze in court? Father, absolutely not. I waved my hands. You find Duke Archibald half a year's taxes, and you're letting me off after a few days? What will the Prime Minister think? If you show favoritism, it will breed resentment. It's bad for the empire. The emperor squinted at me. He didn't believe for a second that I was being selfless, but he couldn't find a flaw in the logic. Fine, have it your way. He took a massive bite of the meat. The next second, his eyes bulged. He gasped and stuck out his tongue. Middle-Age Europe had no chili peppers. This pure heavenly chili powder nearly sent him to the afterlife. Water, get the ale. While he was chugging water, I sent Lily over with some non-spicy skewers. One look at her, and the emperor was back to being a doting father. The final hook and the great harvest. I decided to strike while the iron was hot regarding Cecily's marriage. Father, I didn't want Cecily to marry Arthur because near-blood marriages lead to deformities. The emperor's face darkened. Nonsense again. The prime minister's family is healthy. Cecily is healthy. Why would there be deformities? It's not me saying it, I claim. My caravans met the legendary great physician Paracelsus. He said it himself. Marrying within 3 generations of cousins is extremely likely to produce sick children. Even if there's only a 1 in 10,000 chance, I want gamble with Cecily's life. The emperor froze. Paracelsus was a living god in the empire. Cecily took the cue, sobbing into his arms. Father, I don't want to have a sick child. The lowly brigade swarmed again. The emperor sighed. We must confirm this with the physician. But the old man wanders the world. Even my warrants can't find him. Easy. I puffed out my chest. The physician wants to save people. I've invented new papermaking and movable type printing. I can print his medical books by the thousands and send them across the continent. Just spread the word, and hell come running to find me. The emperor's eyes lit up. Good lad, you made papermaking and printing too? Ask for any reward. Father, give me all the commoner students from the Royal Theological Seminary who failed their priest exams. I need them to print books and spread punctuation. Also, give me some empty titles I can give to my craftsmen. The emperor frowned. Giving titles to craftsmen? That was a massive taboo against the class hierarchy. No way, I sneered. Being emperor sounds boring then. If I create artifacts and the nobles beg you to bring them into the national fold, you'll have to give out titles anyway. The emperor was provoked. He high-fived me. Deal. If you can force the nobles to beg me for your stuff, they'll break the rules for you. Before he left, I whispered one last thing. Father, the philosopher's stone elixirs the alchemists make are full of mercury. It builds up in the body and kills you. Don't drink it. If you don't believe me, test it on a death row prisoner. The emperor's face turned pale. He stared at me for a long time, then nodded deeply and rode off. The next day, at the Dome Mall on Rose Avenue, drums and gongs sounded. This was already the top spot for the elite to show off. Gareth and Roland, sons of high-ranking lords, walked in. A stunning saleswoman greeted them. Young masters, we are launching our VIP membership today. Members get 5 off, skip the lines, get private booths, and even for limited items the emperor himself wants, Prince Silas will give members priority. Gareth's eyes nearly fell out. Priority over the emperor? That was enough to brag about for a lifetime in the Knight's Order. How much? I'm in. The card is free, the girl smiled. But to facilitate your shopping, you must pre-deposit. 10,000 gold for bronze, 100,000 for silver, 500,000 for supreme gold. She raised her voice. Gold is limited to 99 people. You get cost-price goods and exclusive distribution rights in other provinces. Once it's full, new members need a majority vote from the 99 to join. This modern marketing was a total dimensional strike on these medieval rubes. Give me a silver, 100,000 gold. Gareth shouted, red-faced. Roland, slightly poorer, grit his teeth. They'll take a bronze for 10,000. The girl calmly handed them my printed vouchers. These are gold exchange vouchers. They work like gold in any dome mall. His Highness will keep your heavy gold safe for a mere 1 fee. Gareth looked at the voucher. The paper was white as snow, tough, with an exquisite imperial rose and perfect, straight lines of text. Forgery was impossible. It was so much easier than hauling crates of gold. They bolted, heading back to their family castles to grab the money. When Roland reached his father, the Earl slammed the table. It wasn't about the money, it was about the fact that if his peers were all flashing VIP gold vouchers at the mall and he wasn't even a bronze member, his family's face would be dragged through the mud. Load the wagons. Go get me that card. The great wealth-harvesting machine of the Valerian Empire had begun to turn.